Hi everybody, it's Wednesday's lecture and we're wrapping up Chapter 4, Demanding Ethical and Socially Responsible Behavior, which many of these variables, you're going to deal with on your way through your business career. So it's clearly a path that will define you and define your reputation down the road. I had a boss, a couple of stories, just quick ones, coworkers. I had a boss that instilled fear basically in everybody. It's sort of your typical demanding executive. And he retired and his kids left the nest and his wife left, and next thing you know, he's on the phone to people like, hey, let's get together and let's have a alumni barbecue, or let's have a alumni golf event. And nobody wanted anything to do with them. Just because they knew, people don't forget how they got treated when they were working for him. And he's sitting like a sad Shakespearean figure in his castle by himself, and nobody wants to come visit, and his phone doesn't ring, and so on and so forth. And that's something he created for himself, sadly, and that's how he's gonna finish things out, I think. Not sure how he's gonna strike up new friendships at this stage, but it comes back around eventually to people. Another guy I worked with, he had a distinctive name, so I'm just gonna call him John Doe because I don't want to, cause the guy any more trouble than he got himself into. But so John was actually a manager for a company I worked with. Yeah, he was actually my manager for about 6 months, and so I knew the guy pretty well, or thought I did. And so anyway, our regional VP was going to meet a big client and went down to a fancy hotel in downtown Los Angeles, and sitting in the cocktail lounge is John Doe with somebody else. And so the boss stops and says, John, how's it going? And and the boss sticks out his hand and says, hi, I'm John Smith from XYZ company. And she says, hi, I'm Sally Sally Jones from ABC company. And so the boss says, how do you two know each other? And Sally says, well, John's our rep. John's the sales rep for our account. He manages our account. Well, the XYZ boss is thinking to himself, no, he's on our payroll. But he doesn't say anything. I mean, they're having some, business cocktail, and he's going to his own business meeting, so he doesn't want to get into a big, nasty match right there in the middle of a nice hotel. So he just says, great seeing you, have a good day, take care. And then he immediately gets on the phone and calls the other company. And sure enough, he asks for John Doe, and it goes to John Doe. Hi, this is John Doe of ABC company. Long story short, the guy was double dipping. He was working for both companies. Ours, he was trying to be as visible as possible. And the other, he was on the sly, and he wasn't in the office that much for obvious reasons. He was doing business with other clients from the other company, but we all thought he was just a hardworking, industrious guy. He's got to get out, he's got to make calls to clients, etc., etc., etc. But he was collecting a paycheck from the other company and from us. And so long story short, our human resources department called their human resources department and said, we've got this fellow by the name of John Doe, and he's been working for us, but seems that he's also working for you at the same time, which is kind of in violation of our employment agreement. And the person in human resources said, yeah, he's working for us too. And so he got simultaneously fired by both companies. And I mean, what's he going to do now? I mean, you sort of have to, it's like the Jiffy Lube guys. I mean, you got to move out of town almost. You got to get a fresh start elsewhere, because when you interview for a new job, what's one of the first things they ask you for if you're an experienced employee? They ask for references. They want to call your old employers. Well, what is John Doe's old employers going to say? Say, yeah, this guy was a scam artist. He was collecting a paycheck from us the same time he was collecting a paycheck from somebody across town. So there's mistakes, and then there's mistakes, and that one really got him in a lot of trouble. And the executive I first referred to, I mean, his punishment was really emotional. I mean, he just didn't treat people well when he was there, and as such, nobody really wanted anything to do with the guy when he was retired. So you've made your own bed, right? Okay, so. So in the book, really the only specific things that are left that would be on the quiz, which unlocks after class today, and then of course the Chapter 3 quiz has already locked. If you're on this video and you're supposed to be, Chapter 3 is locked. Chapter 4 is unlocking. You've got, of course, as always, a week. Okay. One of the areas is called a social audit, and I'm actually going to go through the quiz question because it can be a little bit confusing, but the social audit is really taking stock of what you're doing to contribute to society, as the name implies. But I read the question and I said, well, some of these answers are kind of close, so we'll just get right to it. A social audit is, the first option, A, a company report that always includes a net social contribution. Well, no, because you can't calculate that, right? I mean, especially when it comes to a social contribution. I mean, you could donate funds. Well, we gave X amount of money to the United Way and to the homeless shelter, et cetera, et cetera. But really, I mean, you can't, it's hard to put a tangible value on it. Again, the project my old company sort of did, the Habitat for Humanity, you can't really put a dollar figure on the contribution things like that do. It's not choice number one. It's not door number one. Second choice, a government mandated report required of all firms that have a business license. No, the government doesn't require any social auditing. I mean, it's part and parcel to the government expecting that you're going to do more business if you have a good reputation, if you're help serving the community. So it's something they could do if they wanted to, but that doesn't make any sense to do it. So therefore, no, it's not number two either. Number three, a company report that measures the firm's social contributions inside and outside of the firm. Now, that is the correct answer, although even that's a little ambiguous. It goes back to my original point of how do you really measure that? But because of door number two, which talks about a government report, I mean, a social audit, you're not reporting it to anybody. Now, it's something you could say in your annual report. You could say, here are the things we're doing socially and environmentally and contributing to society. That's a good thing to put in your annual report. And then the last choice was a recent development that creates a ratio to compare the firm's corporate philanthropy to its profits. And again, no, there's no real calculation associated with that. By the way, I'm skipping ahead, but this is a good time to bring it up. I'll go back to it, or I'll go back to it when we get to the chapters coming ahead. But I mentioned it's something nice to put in an annual report. If you're somebody that is like looking at, if you enjoy researching stocks and all those things, you'll see annual reports. If you own stock, a company will either electronically or physically, nowadays typically electronically, send you the annual report. And it'll have pictures of the executives all smiling and talking about the great results they had, and then it'll have the balance sheet, accurate numbers, so give them that. But basically it's a glorified brochure and advertisement. I mean, it's they're not legally held to anything they say in the annual report. What you do see in some unscrupulous annual reports is we expect, we think, we believe. But there's, as I like to say, there's no wood behind the arrow on it. There's no conclusive proof that they're going to achieve any of the goals that they think they're going to get to. So some companies, as I say, some of the unscrupulous ones are going to use those to lure investors in by saying, oh, well, we think, a gold mining company. I mean, that could just be a big hole with a liar standing at the top of it, right? We think, we're going to excavate 437 metric tons of gold out of this mine in Peru when all they're bringing up is buckets of muddy water, right? Which brings me to the next part of Chapter 4. If you flip the page from like I mentioned, page 97 lists a bunch of good, companies and the good things they do. The next page goes into the scoundrel section, and it's honestly there's not enough time. Like I said, this is ironically the shortest chapter in the book, and it should be really. Yeah, I mean, I could teach a semester-long class on this stuff. Just I could tell stories of my experiences seeing people out there in the world. And that would fill a few lectures, that's for sure. But I just jotted down some notes of a few of these. Basically, the other example used in the text was the BW admission scandal, where they basically cooked the numbers. They made up what they wanted to promote. And they got fined $23 billion. One of the videos you're about to see is Martin Shkreli. We pronounce that wrong. The Pharma Bro, for those of you who have seen news reports on. It's called Touareg Pharmaceuticals, and they had a life-saving drug called Daraprim, and he owned the patent. He bought the patent for it, and he raised the price from $13.50 a pill up to $750 a pill. And it's like, why are you doing this? And he's like, well, because I can do it. I own the patent. And it is a life-saving drug for many people. And so it's like, well, they need it. They're going to have to pay it, and just unmitigated greed. And fortunately, he's behind bars. But that's one of the videos gets into that story a little bit. And then other good ones. There's a couple of juicy ones. FIFA, the soccer governing body, they've been accused of taking $150 million in bribes. Bring the World Cup to our country, and these guys are flying there on elite private jets, and unlimited everything, and Rolex watches on their welcome gift at the hotel, that kind of stuff. And $150 million in bribes, you've got to spread it around a lot of different ways. But needless to say, one's in jail, actually. They finally put one of them away. But the others, either dealing with legal issues, or they've resigned and they've made restitution to it to escape. They plea bargain their way out of it, basically. So there's that. And then we're also going to talk about Theranos, Elizabeth Holmes, who, Theranos had a device that supposedly could test blood with just one prick of your finger and draw it out. It was a toss-up between her and a fellow by the name of Jordan Belfort. And Jordan Belfort, this is something maybe you want to check out on your own, or if you've seen the movie The Wolf of Wall Street, which was nominated for 3 Academy Awards or 5 Academy Awards. It starred Leonardo DiCaprio. about, basically a penny stock company that was scamming people out of their life savings. And Jordan Belfort was the real life Wolf of Wall Street. And so it was either between Thanos and the Wolf of Wall Street. But since they already made a movie about the Wolf of Wall Street, you can just go to YouTube and get the highlights there. But Theranos is interesting too. And so I put that up there. And so those are the two disingenuous sleaze weasels that we're going to focus on for the rest of Chapter 4. And then we'll get together on Zoom for the discussion. See ya.